Good morning, everyone. Mike and Corey here today after an exciting weekend in the geopolitical front. Not as exciting in the stock market front, but that's okay. Today's topics is I'll do a quick review of the markets. We'll see how it's reacting to the events that unfolded over the weekend. Corey's going to take us into Tesla and their testing of their Robotaxi, which has been promised like forever, and the effects on oil, which is also impacted by what I'm going to say some of these events, and then we're going to look at some volatile stocks, maybe not in your portfolio, but just some ones that are really moving around. So as we get started, this is a financial education presentation. You must do your own due diligence on anything you hear in this presentation. More disclaimer information can be found on ankerstarwealth.com, and the opinions expressed are mine and Corey's alone. So I'll just start off real quick summary. We know the last 2 weeks or whatever, I don't know the exact days, but Iran and Israel been trading missiles back and forth. On Saturday, the U.S. got involved. I mean, the U.S. is always kind of involved behind the scenes, but they actually got involved by dropping the MOP, the bunker buster on the 3 sites, or I think they only dropped that on 1 site, but then they shot missiles in 2 other sites of the places where Israel couldn't get to, and only the U.S. has that capability. With a non-nuclear bomb. So those were dropped over the weekend. I'm sure all of you have heard about that. It was, we'll call it, it was a success in that no lives were lost, no soldiers for the United States. And it seems like the objectives have been accomplished. So what does that mean? So let's take a look at the market, and because that's what our focus is on. So when we look at the stock market, we can see that, look at this, everything is up. The S&P's up 0.5%, NASDAQ's up 0.5%. Even, and I could click on oil. Whoops, let me see here. Even oil is down 1%. So, and that would be good. If oil shot way up, you'd say, oh, oil's going to be, supply is going to be restrained. So as far as the market goes, and a lot of times geopolitical events get blown out of proportion. I know Corey showed a slide like a week ago that says there's usually a big reaction, but then really quick within like 30 days, it's kind of like old news, even though in the world it shouldn't be. The market, it is. When I look at this, this will be my opinion. The removal of the threat of an Iran nuclear weapon is outweighed by what's happening now, which is possible escalation, and certainly a situation. So if Iran had tested a nuclear weapon, just tested, I guarantee the markets would sell off. The markets would be, wow, we are really, really concerned. This has been a concern of mine for over 10 years. Always concerned that what happens if Iran gets a nuclear weapon. That has been at least delayed for a significant period of time for them to develop their own. I'm not saying they couldn't get it from someone else, but that's been resolved for now. Corey, what do you think about that? You're a little younger, maybe a little less concerned about this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm more or less I'm with you, and that there's a level of concern there, and if that's been removed, then it adds safety to lots of places around the world.
And just to kind of compare, Iran to North Korea, North Korea tested some nuclear weapons, in the last several years. I haven't heard much of them testing it lately. Maybe they have, maybe it's just old news. But I think the real difference between an Iran and a North Korea is North Korea wasn't posting things all over X. It's funny. I have a kid that says, "Oh yeah, Iran's posting. The main people from Iran are posting on X or Twitter or whatever. they're using the U.S. social media to get their news out. Fascinating. But they're posting things out there like, hey, we're going to destroy Israel. We're going to destroy the United States. I don't, I'm not a subscriber to the North Korea Kim Jong-un feed, but I don't think he's saying that. So I think by Iran doing that, it kind of says, uh, we're more concerned that if you get a weapon, you actually would use it. Where, here you got North Korea that has one, and they haven't used it yet, thank goodness. Well, anyways, that's the markets. Certainly, we're monitoring those because that affects your livelihood or as far as people's investments. But so far, so good. And I'm sure that we're going to see some stocks, some individual stocks may move on this news, but the overall market is not. In fact, I mean, I would consider today just to be a normal day. I'm not saying the market's like, oh, it's positive because of this. It's just kind of a normal fluctuation kind of day. So with that, we'll get a little more local, really local for Corey. But Tesla is coming out with their Robotaxi, or they have finally come out with it after years of promising. So
Yeah.
have you went and tried it yet? It's in Austin, right?
No, but we did go to Austin twice yesterday throughout the day, and I saw some Waymos. I didn't see any robo taxis driving around. So yeah, Musk touts a successful robotaxi Austin launch. It says Tesla rolled out autonomous robotaxis in Austin on Sunday to a limited group of testers. CEO Elon Musk said in a post on social media that customers were charged a flat fee of $420, one of his two favorite numbers, Mike.
So what's the other one? I'm just kidding.
No, no. So what do I think about this? Well, Joseph Carlson, he's a big Waymo guy, part around in social media. He was watching the feeds and he saw one of the Tesla robotaxis. It went to turn and then it kind of tried to go back and then it tried to turn again and then it tried to go back and then it just went the rest of the way in this oncoming turn lane right that you see right here ahead of it. So maybe one small hiccup. Obviously, they did have no crashes or anything, so I guess that's all good. The real question is Tesla and Waymo. What do you think, Mike? Do you think?
So guess what? I have experience in both of these. So I was able to drive in a Waymo drive. I was able to ride in a Waymo when I was in Scottsdale, Arizona. It took it for 45 minutes. We'll tell you that it took kind of the back roads to the airport, did not get on the highway. At first, I was a little nervous because it was me and another guy just riding in the back seat. There's no driver. Nice vehicle, it's a Porsche. Cost was a little bit less than it would take for an Uber, but it also took us longer to get there because we didn't take the highways. On the Tesla side, I've used my own autopilot. I've let it drive like this, and you get these weird hiccups where it kind of like zigs or like it's not quite sure what to do. It's picking up more input to make that turn. Part of me says we're grading it on perfection because you know what? When I see other drivers out there, there's a whole lot of people doing a lot worse driving than this. So we're saying the robot must be perfect. The good news is there's been no accident yet. So
right.
That'd be my 2 cents. I don't know which one's going to win. Who knows? It's good to have competitors. So I hope nobody wins and takes all the market share.
Yeah, absolutely. Good point. Yeah, I would imagine just in general that both will be successful. Tesla's kind of late to the game. They were one of the first to talk about it, one of the later ones to roll it out, even though Amazon's Zoox product has been having issues and they've had to pull product off the road. So I guess for right now it's just a 2-horse race as of Monday this Monday in June. All right.
And we should just say, you know what Elon Musk originally promised, and I'm not, even though I have a Tesla with autopilot, I can't fathom I would do this, but the promise was, hey, you go to bed and your Tesla might run out and make some pickup deliveries and then pull back in your garage, and here I am thinking, yeah, it's like my personal vehicle. Am I really going to let my personal vehicle run around, pick up people, who knows what those people would do to the car. It's just a trust level. Your car could make you money. That was the promise. I see it more as with auto insurance rates going through the roof. They have continued way higher than inflation overall. And young people driving less. The percentage of people that get their first driver's license at like 18 or whatever has gone down a lot. I could see a next generation saying, you know what? I don't need the expense of a car. Certainly don't need the expense of auto insurance. I'll just use Waymo or Robotaxi to get around for my transportation. And I don't even have to deal with people. They'll just pick me up. I use an app. I could see that really, that's the market where they would hit, as opposed to, you or I, Corey, that are used to driving ourselves.
Yeah, that's interesting stuff. Okay, the other one of my other little topics is just looking at crude. Wanted to just make everyone aware that there was no reaction in the market, in the oil or energy market today around the geopolitical events from this weekend. Mike highlighted that a little bit, but prices have risen, 20% or so off the lows. But the easy money there has probably been made. And again, anywhere in that mid 70s range isn't going to squish the consumer too bad. We get 88, 95, something like that. Then you're going to see some purchasing power start to erode really in the economy as those energy costs rise. But for now, the market's not worried about anything that happened this weekend. Okay, I wanted to highlight this, Mike. And Mike, while I'm talking, I want you to see, just looking at the charts, do you see anything suspicious here? Because I've got some very hot names.
Okay.
You may have heard of one of two of them. One of these charts might even be from the 90s. I don't know. But you've heard some of these names, and what we're gonna try to find the one from the 90s. And then my question for Mike is, which one of these is the most inexplicable chart? Which one is the hardest to justify? So what do you think?
Wow. So, I think Cisco's the one you're pulling from the 90s.
It is.
And I can't hardly zoom my eyes in close enough to see the scale on it. But
that one went from 10 to 70, but it did take 3 years. It took 3 years. So
yeah. And then of course you got Circle that just came out and continues to spike up since last week. And it makes me nervous when a company does like what Circle did. CoreWeave, okay, I guess maybe we should have bought that at the IPO. They were backed by Nvidia. I don't know which ones I would be in or out of here. I mean, none of these, just so you know, none of these are in our models. I mean, they may be hidden within an ETF, but none of them are direct holdings. I'm not sure, Corey. Which one are you thinking is inexplicable?
Probably the biggest piece of junk would be Quantum Biopharma, I would guess, just because I don't think they do quantum, and I don't really know if they do pharma either. I think it's just strictly a trading vehicle. Circle now, I've done the math, at $276 per share, Mike. Their market cap is greater than all of the USDC they currently hold. So that means, they're holding $60 billion of dollars that they're turning into the stable coin, and the market cap at 276 is greater than 60 billion. So the market is saying that every dollar that goes into USDC is worth $1 of market cap and $1 of USDC or something. CoreWeave, we looked at that one fundamentally. They have some huge fundamental issues. The way they depreciate their assets is sort of what's the word? It's irrational, I guess. It's hard to justify, and they're very dependent on debt. They're very indebted. That one's hard to justify, but I think Quantum is probably the one I'd say is the biggest piece of junk.
Now, I will say, now you say talk about CoreWeave and some of the rational financial accounting things like that. A certain coworker of ours said the same thing about Tesla way back when. So about their accounting, and that Tesla would never hold up the stock price and that. And I know we talk about whether it's a software company or an auto company, but it did hold up and it did go in the S&P 500. So sometimes that financial accounting kind of gets you over that initial hump and you kind of grow into your business. So
Yeah, that's
I'm
true.
not saying CoreWeave will do that. I would not short any of these. I have no confidence like that. Like I would take something that aggressive. But I will say if you zoomed in on Cisco and if you went into Cisco and you went back into the 90s, I don't know, maybe I can do it here. Let me see if I can pull this up. I'm going to pull up Cisco because that's a company that we've heard of for many
Real quick,
years.
before I stop sharing here while he's pulling that up, you can see 2 of these 9 are getting smoked today. Hims and Hers down 32%. And then the Quantum Biopharma, which isn't Quantum or Pharma, is down 25%. So these things kind of, you're on thin ice, I guess we'll say.
Now I have to go back to Cisco because I had this conversation in the 90s. So here's a graph of Cisco back to 91, and you can see that massive spike. And I had a certain coworker of mine, I remember exactly what his name is, but and we talked about it, and he had invested in Cisco, and he even showed me, and I don't remember how much money it was. It was probably a few thousand. And he was like, if it continues at this rate, he's like, I should be able to retire by like age 30. I mean, guess what? He was in his 20s. He was a little bit younger than me. But and
did it work? I want to hear a happy ending, Mike, please.
well,
please.
wait. I mean, he was in this point where this thing was blasting off. So
yes.
he was saying, if I just keep investing in Cisco and it keeps going up at this rate, I should be able to retire. Now, I doubt he's retired. I could reach out to him today. But look at that drop after that. It went up to 77. It dropped 2/3, and it's still, here we are 26 years later, it still has not reclaimed that high. So there was a person, hopefully not my friend, that bought it here at $77, $82. It hit a peak that day. It still has never touched that. So, I will just say that if this does not show you, and if you asked me about Cisco in the 90s, I'd say, wow, phenomenal company, going somewhere, no concerns about it. But it's just unrealistic to take that kind of a growth curve and think it's going to last forever or even all that long. That's why we have diversified portfolios. And when someone calls and says, I got to have more Palantir, it just shot up 5-fold, or whatever the stock is, Circle or Newsmax or whichever one does the surge, just remember, very, very few continue that surge for very long. So anyways, I throw that out.
Interesting stuff. Yeah, I wanted to highlight that because the animal spirits have been very high.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll see, and I will say too, there's companies like Cisco that kind of lay the foundation for others. They laid the infrastructure for internet. They laid, a Napster laid the foundation for music, music subscriptions. But Spotify was the winner, right? I mean, I'm sure some Napster probably sells some T-shirts and stuff, but Spotify's the winner of that. So you never know who's going to lead off and then who's going to win in the long term. And that same thing could happen in, AI, definitely in AI. Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for coming on. We'll talk to y'all later. Bye.